Today, I will show you how to make tiles with color images using a diode laser engraver. I will show you two techniques, one for images with different layers for different colors like this Iron Man tile, and one for images with color gradient like this Ghost Rider one. Hello guys, and welcome back to Mellowpine Lasers. So here is the TLDR version. You get a white ceramic tile, clean it thoroughly with some acetone or lacquer thinner, and then apply an even coat of all the colors that you want layer by layer. Make sure you give it enough time to dry between each coat. Once you are done, run a test to figure out at what power levels different colors burn off. For me, the black burns off at 8500 mm per minute and 25% power, the red at 8500 mm per minute and 30% power, and yellow at 8000 mm per minute and 40% power on my 20W X-Tool D1 Pro. Remember, these numbers can change based on the color and the paint thickness, so you should run a test each time. You can engrave different layers of the image at different power levels or use a grayscale image. If you are using images with a color gradient, you should engrave using the Jarvis mode and set the maximum power as the power at which you got white. Once you are done, spray some clear coat on it and you will have color engraved tiles. For engraving colors on a ceramic tile using a diode laser, you need to get 4 things right: cleaning the tile, the paint, the design, and finally the speed and power. The first step is to clean the tile thoroughly. You can use lacquer thinner and a cloth to give it a nice rub to remove any film on top of it. Make sure the tile is really clean. You can also use acetone. The next step is to paint the tile. You can use multiple colors for your engravings. I have used up to 4 colors. You can also experiment with more colors. Do tell me in the comments what you tried and how it went. You can also use white paint to engrave permanent grayscale photos onto tile. I have made a video about it. It should pop up somewhere over here. If you want, you can check that out. Back to painting the tile. You should try to give it an even coat as much as possible. And the best option is to use spray paints. It's easier to get an even coat using a spray can than a roller or brush. If you want to make tiles like this Ghost Rider tile, make sure lighter colors go in first. If you don't want that fading effect between colors like this Iron Man tile, you can put them on in any order. You should also place a small piece of tile next to your actual workpiece while painting. This will give you a piece with similar paint thickness to your actual workpiece. You can use this to run tests. If the coat has different thicknesses, the power and speed at which they come off will be different and you will not get that perfect result that you are looking for. While spraying, start spraying from outside the tile and work your way side to side and top to bottom. This will help you get an even coat. Do not start spraying from the middle. The third step is to click that subscribe button. Just kidding. But if you do that, you will get to learn a lot of stuff about laser engraving and cutting. I'm also working on a Halloween special where I show you how to make Halloween decorations using a diode laser. So click that bell icon to get notified when that video comes out. The actual third step is figuring out the right speed and power. Color engraving on tile can be a bit tricky due to the various variables that can affect it. What works for one person might not play out the same for another. Among many other things, the type of paint, the color, and the machine can affect your final product. This is why you should never skip on running some tests. You can do 2 kinds of color engraving on tile. One where one color fades into the other and one where there is stark contrast between the colors. If you want to engrave colors with gradient like this Ghost Rider tile where the red fades into yellow and the yellow fades to white, you should engrave small squares on the test piece and figure out the speed and power at which you get good white squares. For my 20W X-Tool D1 Pro, it's at around 8500 mm per minute and 35% power for 3 layers of paint. Once you have that figured out, you can engrave a black to white gradient rectangle and check if you get a good color separation. You should be able to see all the colors that you used. To get good separation, you need to engrave at high power. But you will have to compensate for the high power with high speed to prevent overburning. Using higher power is better because you will get better scaling. For example, if you use 20% power, you can only use the powers between 0 and 20%. Whereas if you use 80%, you can use all the power levels between 0 and 80. This will give you a better color range. On a 10W machine, you can work around 4000 mm per minute and 30% power. On a 5W machine, you can check around 3000 mm per minute at 60%. If you want to make color engravings like this Iron Man tile where the colors can be engraved individually, the power and speed testing technique has a slight variation. You will have to engrave small squares and figure out the speed and power at which each color becomes visible clearly. You can run a power and speed test. I have a video on how to do that. Once you have the result, you can work around those numbers and engrave small squares to get that perfect color that you are looking for. For my Iron Man tile, I used yellow, red and black paint. I ran one pass at 25% power and 8500 mm per minute for the red layer. For the yellow color, I ran one pass at 25% power and 8500 mm per minute and one more pass at 20% and 8000 mm per minute. And for the white areas, I ran 3 passes at 30% and 8500 mm per minute. Our next step is the design. Just like figuring out the settings, the design aspect has two methods. One for images with layers and one for images with gradients. For tiles like the Iron Man tile, which has a layered design, you can use an image editing software to split the image into different layers. For the Iron Man image, I have a layer for red, one for yellow and one for white. You can leave all the layers black, you don't have to color them. Also, make sure all of these designs are of the same size. This is because once you are done separating out the layers, you will be importing them all into Lightburn and you'll align them vertically and horizontally. If all your images are the same size, you will get the complete image when you combine them. If you're using laser Gerbil, you'll have to engrave each image separately using the same origin. As for the settings, keep it in threshold mode, set the line spacing at 0.1 mm and keep overscanning turned on. If your color fades in the edges due to overscanning, try to use a lower power setting. For images like the Ghost Rider one, you need to choose images with good contrast between the colors you intend to use. For my Ghost Rider image, I used yellow and red, so I need to make sure that the color saturation of yellow and red is good enough. You will have to do some tinkering around to make sure the colors you use pop out. Once you think you got it right, you can turn it into grayscale and invert it. The areas with light colors should have a darker black shade than those with darker colors. This means the laser will burn through more layers of paint and reveal the paint that's at the bottom layer. This is why we put in light colors first. Once you have the image ready, import it into Lightburn or Laser Gerbil, set the mode to Jarvis, set the line spacing at 0.1 mm and run it at the power and speed settings you figured out. After you're done with the design process, load your tile onto the workbed, focus your laser and run it. Once it's done, blow off the dust on the top or use a cloth to remove the soot from the burnt paint. Now, this is not permanent like the grayscale engraving. If you scratch it, it will come off just like any other paint. So you will have to protect it using some clear spray. You can go for multiple coats of clear if you want. If you mess up your settings, do not worry. Apply some lacquer thinner onto the surface, wait for it to evaporate and use a knife to peel off the paint and you can start over again without wasting the tile. If your tile gets blackened while engraving and you want to start over again, just give it a coat of white paint before putting on the other colors. Another thing you should keep in mind is that you should try to engrave the tile within a day of painting it. If you give it too much time, the paints bond with each other and you won't get a good color separation. I wanted to make a wall piece using the layer technique and this is how it turned out because I engraved it after about a week. So that's how you make color engraved tiles on a diode laser. I hope the video was helpful. If you guys want more content like these, click that like button and subscribe to the channel. If you think the video wasn't good, do tell me in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.